On this video, I'm going to talk about change and how you want to change and the way that you haven't changed yet and where the difference is and why there's a gap. So I'm Lucy and I'm a holistic peak performance coach, and it's good to understand some questions for yourself that you might like to think about. And so I'm just going to quickly suggest something to you. There are things and times in your life where you reach an impasse and you just think, why have I not got to where I thought I would have been by this time? And it's a good question to ask yourself, why am I not where I want to be by this time in my life or by this time this year? And it's oftentimes the questions that you're not asking yourself, or if you haven't got a coach to be able to see from a different angle, to be able to ask you that question, you don't even know what the question is to ask. So here's something that you might like to think about, a question. And the question is, what is it that until this point you have been too uncomfortable or too afraid to talk about? What question until this time have you been too uncomfortable or too afraid to talk about or to even ask yourself? And you know it's lurking. You know that that's lurking because the way that I coach, I know that my client has the answer. And it's just about pulling that answer out of that person with the right types of questions. And this is one of those questions. Because what that does, it gets you thinking about the real stuff, the stuff that you put aside, that's hidden, that's deep down inside you, that you feel like maybe you've already overcome it in some way, or you don't need to overcome it. But oftentimes it's lurking, and you haven't asked that question of yourself to discover the reason that you've not moved from where you are now to where you want to be. And I'll give you an example for myself. The questions that I wasn't asking until I had a coach who I was being mentored by, coached by, was, what is the thing that you are not talking about in this conversation? And it was a end of a discovery call type of conversation. And I wasn't digging into the depth of what was presented to me far enough. I was going off in a way that I felt was going to affect that person because that's what I felt was important, but I hadn't addressed what their concern was. And so the question I wasn't asking myself before he brought it to my attention was, what am I not asking that person? What am I not leaning into? Where am I not making that change happen? What is that breakthrough that I need to hold that person to having? And what is the way to do that? So those were the types of questions that I needed to start asking to help my client to have that breakthrough. And that's where I will have my own breakthrough. But until somebody else comes along, I wasn't sure. I could see that something wasn't working as often as I wanted it to, but I wasn't quite sure why. What was that reason that it wasn't working as well as I wanted to, as many times as I wanted it to be able to help that person, to be able to help them to get the transformation, to help them to make the decision faster, until he saw it for me and he asked me those types of questions. There'll be another video coming up on screen. If this has got you thinking, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you over there. Bye for now. Have an awesome day.